Good afternoon. This is Mike Layton again. I'm the owner of Stochastic Marketing, and for first-time listeners, Stochastic works with hundreds of HVAC and plumbing contractors. Collectively have sold about $3 billion, and we've analyzed more than 30 million of their customer visits to develop our data analytics and MIRSCOR report. And we make these podcasts available to our customers as a way to collect and share real-world knowledge and solutions to some of the challenges our customers face day in and day out. And behind all those numbers are the people and their wisdom. So we'd like to talk with Bethany DeLaurencio, the marketing director of Jerry Kelly Heating and Air, and just kind of talk about some of her experience and see what we can learn from her. Good afternoon, Bethany.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, you've been with Steve Miles, the owner of Jerry Kelly Heating and Air, that operates just west of St. Louis for over 3 years now. Is that right?
That's right.
And in larger contractors like yours, that like you have a person that's dedicated to running all the marketing, there seem to be two career paths that contracting marketing pros like yourself take in this industry. In your case, you didn't come into this from the HVAC business. How did you wind up in this industry?
Well, I grew up, I guess you can say, in the marketing department of a large residential developer, and it's kind of unique for a builder to have an in-house marketing department too. So I actually ended up relocating to St. Louis, and one of my first nights here, I saw a Jerry Kelly TV commercial, and being familiar with construction and working with contractors, it kind of caught my eye that an HVAC contractor would run a TV spot, and it was actually pretty funny and creative. So I just happened to Google them, and coincidentally, they had an opening for a marketing director. So the rest is kind of history.
So before you really, I mean, obviously, I guess you're from Long Island originally, right?
Right.
And so you really had not noticed any sort of that TV or radio in Long Island?
Well, Long Island is so old, there's not a whole lot of central heating and cooling to start with. It's more window units and stuff, so I couldn't even name one large HVAC contractor there, and I'm born and raised.
Yeah, Long Island, like you said, it doesn't have sort of the typical suburban sprawl that, you know, fortunately for you, surrounds Jerry Kelly. So how'd you plug in? I mean, you came in from outside the area, outside the industry, and Jerry Kelly had been Contractor of the Year, I guess, before you came to them, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So just tell us about that. How you kind of integrated into it from the outside.
It was kind of nice and easy, other than learning about the HVAC industry specifics and that kind of stuff. I mean, Steve was already heavily invested in marketing. That is how they made it through the 2007, 8, 9 recession. So my job was pretty easy because I didn't have to convince him he needed to be marketing. I just had to convince him, like, how, where, and why.
So like Steve started out like a lot of guys as really a technician kind of start, but you don't get that big without being a pretty good marketer. So you're like the only one in the company that's not been to tech school, I guess, or one of the few people probably, right?
One of the few on the leadership end, yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Now you've been, what, 3 or 4 years now?
Going on 4.
Oh wow, okay. And you've gone through some digital marketing changes over that time period, right? Did you switch providers sometime a couple of years ago or a year ago?
Yeah, I was kind of twofold. Switched SEO and PPC providers, and also built a new website through a different website designer. It had been in-house prior to that. So it was a lot of big changes at once.
So, I mean, that's a huge change, particularly the way you promote this jerrykelly.com jingle and everything you do. What did you look at when you were trying to make your decision about going from in-house capabilities to whoever you're using now? How did you evaluate their digital and their SEO capabilities? What were you looking for?
It was pretty multifaceted. I did my own research on up-and-coming trends in mobile websites and how websites are viewed. And at the time, we had our standard website, and then we had a whole separate mobile site, the kind of dumbed-down, easy version. And this was probably about 2 years ago I started looking into this. So responsive sites were the way everybody's saying you needed to go. So I looked for a company that had experience in history building responsive sites, because a lot of, especially HVAC-specific website developers, were either still beta testing them or weren't even ready to build them yet. So that was a big one. And then I found that a lot of the pretty responsive websites were not so great on their SEO. So I kind of married two companies. I let the pretty one build it out so it had a great design, but then I passed it off to a great SEO team to do all the back-end stuff to get us to rank well, because I just couldn't find the one company that was a do-it-all shop.
And so the companies that you picked, they really, a lot of their experience was outside of residential HVAC and plumbing. Did they come at it from other, e-commerce sites, or what was the background that made them be able to do what you wanted?
The design company, they did actually have quite a bit of experience in like home services. So they weren't specific and exclusive to that, but they did have a background in it, and they just had the best looking sites. I went through everything they had built in the past year, and they just stood out by far. And then the SEO company does specialize in home services as well. So it's kind of nice there. You don't have that learning curve of teaching them all about your industry and seasons and keywords. They already are there, and they can just pick it up and run with it.
How long did that take for them to get it the way you wanted?
The design or the SEO part?
Well, you got two issues. You got the design issue, and then you got the SEO. I mean, how long was your sort of, okay, you commit and you say, we're going to do this, and then they start, and then how long before you could kind of go live and have it tweaked?
It was probably about a 6-month process from signing off on the design to the SEO back end being completed. So it definitely does not happen overnight.
And that's different. We deal with a lot of people that really use sort of a templated approach, that's up and running pretty quick. And that works for the $1 million, $2 million contractor, but you're 10 times that size, right? So it took you 6 months to get it the way you wanted?
Yeah, and we still, to this day, we test and make changes on a weekly basis, so it's never really a finished project. But it was about 6 months from signing off on redesign to it launching.
And for people that aren't in the St. Louis area and don't hear the jerrykelly.com, which I'm not able to kind of sing like they do on the radio ads.
Yeah, me neither.
You promote that really heavily. For instance, you don't have on your radio ad phone number, right?
No.
It's the website. And that you promote that regardless of the radio programs that you're promoting, don't you?
Correct.
And so what do you look for in a radio audience that's going to respond to your radio ads and go to the website?
We really don't care how small the audience is as long as we own it. We're on the same time, on the same stations, on the same shows day in and day out. And the more people complain and call in about our ads and how annoying they are, the better. I love that. I know it's sticking. We get it all the time, that parrot voice. You got to take them off the air. I'm like, well, then it's doing its job, so we're not changing anything. But we're, in St. Louis, we're kind of that belt in the middle. It's conservative, and Rush is a big show here, so we're on the same day part of Rush every single day, and he has a loyal and devout audience. So do we get those people the stop Rush people and tell you to boycott your ads? Yeah, but they're from all over the country, and they're not legitimate. So we just own the shows we're on.
And is that a drive time? Because Rush Limbaugh's, in terms of the demographics of your audience,
Yeah.
What are you looking for there?
I don't so much. We do use a media buyer, so I do have somebody helping us with that, but it's not so much the drive time. It's more the show. Like there's a classic rock station that has a very devout listening on the weekends to a specific show here, so we run on that show every weekend. So it's more about the following than the drive time per se.
Okay. Because like Rush Limbaugh doesn't, he's in the Midwest. His show is, from 11 till 2.
Yeah.
Different, but it's a completely different time than out, at least live, than out say on the West Coast. It'd be like 9 in the morning. So it's not the drive time. It's more the loyalty. And are they going to listen to it every day so they hear the ad over and over? Is that what you're looking for?
It is. It's the repetition.
Now, you're really on top of everything now. Go back, think about that first week when you kind of come from Long Island and you start off. What the ownership group, leadership group tell you about contractor marketing? How'd they kind of give you that background?
They didn't really tell me a whole lot. It was kind of throw me in my seat and figure it out as I go.
Did he at least tell you what he wanted from you, like right out of the gate? I mean,
yeah, he's very focused on our budget and our monthly goals. So I knew what the end goal was for the fiscal year, for the months, and it was kind of up to me to figure out how we're going to get there. But I definitely knew what his expectations and the goals were. So
was that like, some people talk about just brand awareness. Did he tie that to, was it name recognition, or was it number of calls or number of orders? I mean, how did he kind of quantify that right out
Revenue,
of the gate?
dollars. It was all about the budget goals. Yeah, you can't really speak to Steve much about branding and the kind of fluffy stuff with marketing. It's all the bottom line. I mean, there were some parameters, like the JerryKelly.com jingle was untouchable, and I wouldn't dare change it, but there was those kind of parameters. But other than that, it was kind of free game.
And so did he know what a new customer was worth? Was that part of the kind of calculation, or did he
had an
share
idea.
That?
He did, and he had an idea, but honestly, it wasn't until we started using your metrics that we could really dive deep down into it. It was more what it cost per customer. It wasn't really focused on new versus existing back then.
So he was doing like a cost to acquire a new customer. We spent X and we should get Y new customers. That was kind of the metric from the advertising.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you first started, how was Steve making all the decisions, or how long before he said, you really know what's going on and I'm going to leave you alone? How long did that take?
As long as I could back my argument with analytics and numbers, he let me run with it. He's more of a facts and figures. This is why it's going to work. Here are the numbers to back it. Then I think we should do this. So as long as I could prove myself that way, I was pretty free to go.
How long did it take for you to get over that hump?
Probably the first 6 months.
Okay, that's pretty quick. I mean, I know some people that are trapped in limbo, seems like for years. They're always getting second guessed.
No, it's pretty good here. He'll try anything once, so I can't complain.
So 6 months, you felt pretty comfortable. 6 months, he felt pretty comfortable, or did you guys get lucky and you synced up the right time frame? I mean, 6 months is pretty fast.
I think I picked up on how he operated pretty quickly, so it made it pretty easy to build trust. So we synced up pretty easily.
Now, I just thought about seasonality. Did you start June when all hell broke loose, or was it a slower period like a March or October?
I started in October, and I started in October of 2012, which you're local, so I'm sure I've heard stories, but luckily I missed it, that the summer of 2012 was one of the hottest ones on the books, where it started like 100 degrees in April and didn't let up through August. So I came in, obviously October is a slow season, but I came in off of like the busiest few months on the books. So they were kind of riding on a high from that, but it was
Right.
kind of good because it gave me some time to kind of get my feet on the ground and figure out the seasonality in the industry.
Well, it makes a big difference when everybody's just high-fiving themselves in the hall for the year.
It definitely did.
Well, what advice, because a lot of people come in a little bit like yourself, they come in from another industry, particularly somebody that's coming in and doesn't have someone that's real metrics focused, which, you were fortunate enough to kind of come into that. If you're coming in from outside the industry, into a marketing job inside HVAC or plumbing, I mean, what advice would you give those kind of people? And there are plenty of them out there, so they can learn pretty quickly. Where would they go for information to figure that out?
I would say I'd start off by spending some time in every seat of the company, from a CSR to dispatch to ride-alongs with service techs and installers. You really have to get a handle on the business to understand it, and establishing relationships and doing site visits with other companies who are industry leaders, or they're at a level that you're working to get towards. Learn from the best. We attend a lot of the conferences and trade shows, and we network a lot, and we bounce ideas off of other industry leaders, and it's really a great way to get ideas and kind of see how things work in other places, because I came in here not knowing the first thing about HVAC, and it's kind of hard to market something you don't have an understanding of, so that's where I would advise starting.
So Steve's a pilot, so did he throw you in the plane and go visit some of the other people that are within flying distance and say we're going to go on a tour, or
I haven't flown with him, but I have gone out on my own, and I still have a whole bucket list of places on my agenda to make it to, hopefully in the near future.
Well, they can't have both of you in the same plane. It's too risky to the company, right?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
So are there any sort of websites that you follow that are good sources for information on contractor marketing other than Stochastic? I mean, Service Roundtable, what is there?
Yeah, I follow them. I follow just marketing, like e-newsletters that aren't industry related, like Marketing Land, stuff like that. You just see up-and-coming trends, whether it's digital or mostly digital, because that's really the biggest changer. The rest of this stuff has kind of been around and not going anywhere.
Yeah, in the HVAC, it's sometimes it's hard to get somewhere to the white paper, the real robust marketing data that you get, because the companies are smaller. But someone like Internet Retailer News, some of those kind of publications, there's a lot of people doing research for big e-commerce people, and they're usually a few years ahead on the e-commerce stuff. So you kind of troll that kind of stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I don't like to be caught off guard when you find out stuff like Amazon is selling, home services and that stuff. I like to know that that's coming down the pipeline. We don't like to be the last to jump on a bandwagon.
Yeah, I saw just this week on Internet Retailer, a magazine site, which has a lot of information from big people all over the world. And they were talking about how Amazon, is delivering so much consumer products. And what a shock, just like any grocery store chain, they've started doing private label consumer products from Amazon. Once they figure out how much money is there, they say, we'll keep it all. And I think that's kind of one of those things you got to watch from people like Amazon or Angie's List or some of these others.
Definitely. Because everybody's trying to sell you leads now, too. That's the new route they're going. We just had our local newspaper come in and try to sell us leads off their ads now, as opposed to just placing an ad in the newspaper. So it's definitely a new age.
Yeah, about 7 years ago, there were a few people that were trying to do that quite a bit. They've kind of backed off. I know that part of their big complaint was they'd sell the same lead to 3 or 4 other guys. And, first person in was followed by 2 or 3 other ones who were all giving them a quote, and it was pretty hard to sell anything new when those kind of selling you leads kind of things were going on. But
yeah, who wants that?
Well, I appreciate you taking some of the time out here just to kind of introduce people to kind of some of this kind of stuff that you've picked up faster than most. All right, well, listen, I appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.